All right, so today we're looking at basic conversions. You have most of the conversions at the top of the page. Some of these are exact, but some of them are somewhat approximate. So if you were to use Google to convert, you might get slightly different answers. So teaspoons and milliliters are changing a standard measure to a metric, so that's an approximate. Same thing, tablespoons to milliliters, pounds to kilograms, and ounce to milliliters. These four, actually, when we add in, so 5, these 5 are approximates. What's that? I do, and I'll get to that in a minute, yeah. So, if you, honestly, I would probably go to my phone every time and use Google to convert. It takes about 2 seconds to type it in. kg to lb, you get your conversion. You can type it in on either side. You get something pretty exact. So there's nothing wrong with that. Because we're in math class, we're going to do it the math way with calculators, just to help us practice a little bit of math. This last one is a little bit weird, and it only works. It's really, you'll really only see it in probably medicine. So there's something called apothecary, and an apothecary was someone who made medicines. They still use that term a little bit today, kind of like a pharmacist. And they had something called a grain, which is abbreviated GR. Now, most everywhere else, GR means gram. In medicine, gram should be G, and GR should be grain. And in older things, you'll sometimes see grain used as a measure for medicine. And then that's the conversion between a grain and a milligram. So I'm going to set these up. As I go through these, I'll probably do them a little more complicated. Some of these are very straightforward. I'll still set up the proportion just so we get kind of used to it. And then we'll talk about, after we do proportions a few times, we'll talk about other ways to do it. So here we want to go ounces to milliliters. Now, we really should be talking fluid ounces because one of the problems with standard measure is ounce is a weight and ounce is a volume. But milliliter is only a volume, so we need fluid ounces. And if we look back up, our ounce to milliliter conversion is 30, right? So a very straightforward way to do this is just be if 1 ounce is 30, then 6 is 6 times 30, and that gets you the answer. If I were to set it up as a proportion, I would say 6 ounces is to some unknown milliliter, just as 1 ounce is to 30 milliliters. And then if I cross multiply, I get x equals 180. I don't anticipate, I don't need to see your work. Many of these are straightforward enough, you don't really need to show work. I will write it down, so for whoever this is new, they have a little idea of how I do it. So mg is milligram. What is mcg? Microgram, yeah. So this is a microgram. And there are 1,000 micrograms in 1 milligram. This number, the microgram, looks a lot bigger than the milligram, so I got to make it look smaller. I make conversions look smaller by multiplying, or by, in this case, dividing, sorry. 4,000 divided by 1,000 is 4. So similarly, we have 5 grams. This is a microgram. In my mind, I probably would go to milligram first, so milligram looks bigger, times 1,000. So I have 5,000 milligrams times 1,000 again gives me the microgram. 5 million micrograms. That's a lot, huh? 5 million. So multiplying and dividing by tens, hundreds, thousands is adding zeros, taking away zeros, moving decimals left or right. So if your dosage is in the hundreds of micrograms, 5 grams would be a lot of the dosage, right? You would have a lot of doses there. Maybe we shouldn't have that much on hand if it's that powerful of a, depending on how often it's used. So here we're going milliliters. Again, this has to be a fluid ounce. And we know it's a 30 to 1. So 50 milliliters over an X number of ounces has to equal 30 milliliters over 1 ounce. So this is a proportion, and conversions can be solved using proportions. Here I would cross multiply. And as a math teacher, I like this because I get to practice my algebra. Yay, algebra! So this is 1.67 ounces. In this case, I may like it as the fraction. The fraction is 1 2/3 because I know that 1 ounce is 2 tablespoons. Yeah, I did that wrong this morning. Ugh, I shouldn't say that on a recording. 1 ounce is 2 tablespoons. So 4/3 tablespoon, this is going to be some messed up math here. So this 1 ounce is the same as 2 tablespoons for the 1. The 1 becomes 2 tablespoons. The 2/3, watch this, is 4/3 tablespoon, which is 1 1/3 tablespoon. Guess what 1/3 of a tablespoon is? I don't know, Mr. Roebuck. I'm having trouble following anything you're saying right now. It's a teaspoon. So although 1.67 ounces is really nice, if I write it as a fraction, you could call up your culinary friends and they would tell you it's 3 tablespoons and 1 teaspoon. So why did I do all that? Because I can measure this very accurately. I cannot measure 1.67 ounces very accurately. So sometimes decimals are fine. Sometimes our fraction lets us convert to something different. And by sometimes, I mean anything that can be tablespoons as thirds could be teaspoons. So capital T is tablespoon and lowercase t is teaspoon. Oh, into tablespoons. Ooh, yeah, we could do that, couldn't we? So we could even add another, yeah. There still would be a couple of translations, right? I went to ounces just because I think that's probably the first move I try to make, and when I get a weird fraction, then I might look at another way to say it. So it would be 50 over 15, which is, 10/3, or 3 1/3 table, which then that is easier to see as 3 table and 1 tea. I agree. 1 teaspoon. Now, honestly, you won't be doing that, I doubt. Just a little math fun. Oh yeah, Mr. Ehrlich, that's a lot of fun. So we go from having all that fun in number 4 to there being a typo on number 5. Or are you really reading the question on number 5? What does kilograms measure? Weight, and I already said milliliters measures volume. So I can't translate weight to volume without some other thing. So this can't be done without knowing something else. Okay. So if I knew water, I could find out how many liters, or if I knew the substance, I could do that, but not without knowing the substance. Impossible. Teaspoon is volume, milliliter is volume. We have that conversion, right? 5. So a couple ways to see this. If 1 teaspoon is 5 milliliters, then 20 is 20 times 5. That's the most straightforward way, but you can do the proportion. 20 over x equals, now I got to get it right, 1 over 5. Teaspoon to milliliter, multiply, and you get 100 milliliters. That's a little bit of an approximation. All right. I think I almost like page 3 better than this page. Can we just do half of this page? You want to do odds or evens? Even? I always pick evens, right? Because if there's more of one or the other, it's got to be more odds. So you got a chance of doing fewer. Milligram to microgram, that's 1,000 relationship. Their microgram looks like a bigger number. Multiply by 1,000. So then number 4 is just the reverse. So we multiplied by 1,000 to go from milligrams to micro. We're going to divide by 1,000 or move the decimal 1, 2, 3 places. In medicine, we should always put 0 point if we have just decimal numbers. In math, it doesn't really concern me, but I can see it might escape some confusion. So what is a CC? What does the CC stand for? So the first word is cubic. Cubic what? Centimeters, yeah. So CC is cubic centimeters, and it's actually a 1-to-1 with milliliters. That was kind of the purpose of milliliters. Milliliter is a volume, well, centimeter is a length, but a cubic centimeter is a volume. So that's one nice thing metric did. They took their length measure, measured a volume using that, and then related it to their volume measure. Real nice. So the backwards is the same. 32 milliliters is also 32 cc's. These are used interchangeably. Something that you would be expected to know. Like when I say, I need 20 cc's of hot fudge, stat. The kids know what to do. Just leave the bottle. All right, 7 liters to milliliters. So this is 1,000 relationship. Milliliters looks like a bigger number. When we talk about distances, you see centimeters, you see millimeters, you see meters, you see kilometers. We don't see the centa very often in volume unless it's a cc. So 8 milliliters is very small. Liters will look like a much smaller number. We're going to divide by 1,000. That moves the decimal 1, 2, 3 places, so we have to add a 0. 0.018. You didn't get as many teaspoons and whatnot, did we? The next page is better, though. Ooh, I got 2 minutes to get through this. All right, milligrams looks like a bigger number, so I'm going to multiply by 1,000. Moves the decimal 1, 2, 3 places, so I'm going to put in 2 more zeros. 5500. Microgram looks like a bigger number, so I have to make it smaller, but I'm going to do 2 conversions. I'm going to go to milligram first, divide by 1,000, and then divide by 1,000 again. So 1, 2, 3, 0 point, and 2 zeros. I'm going to skip down because I'm about to lose my recording. I got about a minute left. We haven't done the weight ones yet. So the weight is a 2.2 conversion if you look on the other page. So if I have 225 pounds in X kilograms, there are about 2.2 pounds in every 1 kilogram. So here if I cross multiply, 225 equals 2.2x and divide. And I don't want to do that now. So 102.27 kilograms. So So another way to do this is to use just multiplication with a conversion factor.